We've got a book review today of Jordan Belfort's book, The Way of the Wolf, coming up. Don't miss it. All right, so we got a book review today. We're going to be reviewing the book, The Way of the Wolf, written by Jordan Belfort. It's about his life and how he has honed his sales experience. You probably know Jordan Belfort from the movie, The Wolf of Wall Street, the famous movie, great movie. The actor in that was Leonardo DiCaprio. That movie was more, a little bit more crazy about his actual life and all the things that he did when he started his company. And a little bit of a crazy scene when it comes to the drugs and all the other things that he was doing. But this book specifically doesn't talk about those things. It talks about more of the sales techniques that he's honed over his lifetime. And so I've recently got into sales. Sales, to me, has many parallels in life. And so we'll talk about a few of those things, and then we'll get into some of the key concepts that Jordan talks about in his book. And I'll be quick and concise, giving a quick review. This way you guys can go read a copy yourself. I think that everyone should read a copy, regardless if you're in sales or not, because there are many, many parallels that you'll learn from this book that you'll be able to help apply to your life, regardless of what you do. Professionally, personally, I don't really care. There are things that you'll learn that I think will help in every aspect. And so we'll talk about some sales parallels. We'll get into the key concepts. We'll try to make this short. Let's see how that goes. So let's get into it. So the background for even me being interested in sales, because I've read a handful of books on this topic recently. I've found that I'm going to need sales techniques and to even understand sales if I want to start my own company. And I've also just always been interested in the skill set of sales. I've always thought that if you're good at selling, it's not just the profession. You can apply that in anything. And so I've always have been somewhat interested in sales, and I've gotten into it recently, which is why I read this book. And I read a few others that we might do a book review on as well. But I want to start off with this one. Jordan Belfort, I think, probably is one of the best sales people. He's also got that really amazing movie. So we figured I'd start with Jordan first, and we're going to do a sales book. So let's talk some parallels, because I think if you're listening to this, you might say, I'm not ever going to be in sales, so I don't ever see myself needing to read a book on sales. And I would initially may have agreed with you a little while ago until I really understood that things that you learn are going to help you, I keep saying, in every aspect. But if you're trying to push an idea forward in your company, if you're trying to get a promotion, if you're asking somebody on a date, if you're trying to schedule a meeting with someone, anytime you're just trying to push your agenda forward, is really only going to help when you know the skill set of sales. And so I read a handful of books on this topic. I haven't done a ton of selling professionally in my life. We'll talk to some people on this podcast who have, and we'll get their perspective on things. So over the next few weeks, I think we'll have at least one person who's going to be joining who has been a sales professional for 12 years. And so we'll get their perspective. Here, let's talk about more of Jordan Belfort's key concepts. So here's some parallels, though. In sales, you always need a full pipeline. And so that means you need to do a lot of prospecting. And you never want to come to a point where in 30 days, you're not going to have any more potential customers that you can call on. So you have to do a shit ton of cold calling, emailing, reaching out to people on Facebook, having a conversation with people that you pass on the street. I don't know. You need to just constantly prospect. And the concept of prospecting is you're really casting a really wide net, and a small percentage of those people might come and be interested in what you're trying to sell. And so there's a mentality to that you have to work through, because we're human beings. We don't like rejection. And so just mathematically, if you look at that, cast a wide net means you're asking a lot of people for something, and most of them are going to say no. Most of them might be aggravated with you as you're reaching out to them. And you have to keep doing it, because that is going to help fill your pipeline. You reach out to 1,000, and let's say maybe 50, I don't know, I'm making these numbers up, but you reach out to 1,000, maybe 50 are interested. Now you have 50 potential customers that you can continue selling and potentially turn into a sale. If you haven't reached out to 1,000, you don't have that 50, and you have no one in the pipeline. And so in sales, that what that does is that deteriorates your confidence. You can if you're in a sales meeting and you're hedging all of your bets on this one sale, and you have nothing in the pipeline, no other companies to talk to, no one else that might potentially be interested in your product or whatever you're selling, you're going to be a nervous wreck. You're going to come off desperate, and everything is going to weigh in on this one sale. It's going to be too much pressure, and you'll just be desperate. And desperation is like blood in the water with sharks. It's off-putting. No one likes someone who's desperate. And this is the parallel. You don't. If you're asking someone on a date, you don't want to seem desperate. If you're asking for pitching anything in your company, you don't want to sound desperate. You want to come off confident, and you can't come off confident when you're in the back of your head saying, if this sale doesn't go through, it's over. I have no one else in the pipeline. I have no one else that I can talk to that can pitch or buy my idea. So always you need a full pipeline. Imagine working at a company, and you know that based on your skill set, you're obsolete, and no other company would hire you. Um, and for some reason you're staying at this company because you've worked through the politics of it, and you're firm in your job. Maybe it's a slightly cushy job, um, but you know that you're on your way out soon, and no other company is going to hire you for that same amount of money or the same responsibilities, because others have learned more. The industry might have changed. That's you having no pipeline. The parallel there is you have no pipeline. You haven't been learning. You haven't been reaching out to companies or building your skill set. So if this job falls through, it's all over for you. Maybe it's not all over for you, but it's not going to be a great position. And 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 so how do you think you'll feel when you're pitching an idea or you're presenting already is nervous enough. You'll be nervous enough presenting, but imagine doing that when you know that everything's on the line and no other company is going to hire you. I can only imagine that. So, or you might be asking someone on a date, and you know that you haven't been talking to anyone else, and no one else may go on a date with you, and this is your only chance, and you sound really desperate. Always have a full pipeline. So I guess the parallel is build your skill set, always prospect, and build your confidence. Don't have everything completely depend on one specific deal, one specific opportunity. There definitely will be opportunities that are, let me just fix the camera real quick. There definitely will be opportunities that come across that are better than others, but don't, completely depend on one opportunity. You'll lose your confidence. You'll come off desperate. So that's one. Two is you need to learn how to ask and just to ask. Uh, for me, this was really helpful because it's one of those things where I think I used to ask questions in a way that I would give someone an out if 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 they were to say no. Um, it's like, and in sales, you really know how to transfer the confidence over from you to the person you're asking in a way that makes them want to say yes. The whole goal, right, is to increase the chances of that person saying yes and decreasing the chance of them saying no. And just even the way that you ask can completely change the dynamic between two people. And so if you ask, like, hey, do you have 5 minutes to listen to my idea? I would understand if you didn't. It doesn't matter. I just want to see, I just want to ask if you do have time. Um, that is not a confident, and that's a little bit maybe of an exaggeration, but that is sort of a way that you're giving someone an out, and some sort of how I would potentially ask a why. Like years ago when I was trying to pitch an idea through, it's a horrible way to ask. So you need to learn how to ask. You need to just be confident in asking, and you just need to ask. Um, I, there's a I under interrupting someone's day to pitch your idea is a very difficult mentality to get past through, to pass through and continue doing consistently, because it annoys people. Someone's in their normal day, just like picture knocking on someone's door randomly. It's annoying. You have a door-to-door salesperson. You get annoyed because you're in your regular day. They're interrupting you. Um, so for you to do that, and that the other person on the other side is going to get annoyed from you, you cannot come off weak. You cannot come off desperate. You cannot come off like you're giving the person an out because they're looking to take an out. They don't want to get sold right now. They're annoyed, and you have to get past that mentality. You cannot come across as, hey, I have an idea. If you have time, it would be good. If you don't, that's okay too. That is the blood in the water that the shark's gonna capitalize on and just say, "Yep, I have no time." But if you come across very differently, and part of what will some of the things that you'll learn in this book, because Jordan Belfort talks about tonality and why tonality is so important. There's so many different types of tonality. We'll talk about that. But if you come off and you transfer the confidence from you to the other person, it'll be harder for that person to say no and give them an out. So, hey, I got this awesome idea. Do you have 5 minutes to walk you through it? I promise you won't be disappointed. That's just one example. I'm just talking off the top of my head right now. But you can imagine how much harder that is to say no to than, hey, I've got an idea. I don't know. I'm not sure if you're going to like it or not. If you don't have time, that's fine. I just want to see if you do. I'm just I'm just giving you guys quick examples of asking. But a lot of people don't ask. A lot of people don't ask confidently. A lot of people don't ask with the right tonality. And a lot of people just don't ask. They're afraid to ask. Cannot be afraid to ask. You need to just continue asking and pushing your idea and being confident in how you're asking. Give your confidence of yourself or your idea and transfer that to the other person. If you don't do that and you give them an out, they're gonna take the out. This is human nature. People want to go on with their regular life. They don't want to be sold. So if you give them an out, they're gonna take that damn out. Um, and I mean the parallel, right, is it could be anything. Promotion, trying to push an idea to your boss. Hey, whoever's your boss name, let's say your boss is Mike. Mike, I've got a really good idea. I'd love to take you through it for 5 minutes. I think it's going to really help with the process that we do. Blah 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 blah. Give me the chance to give me the opportunity to just walk you through it. that's how you keep pushing ahead in a company that you work for. That's how you show that. That's how you show your company that you're trying to move the business forward. Don't be afraid to ask. Just ask, whether it's anything. Um, don't be so timid either, because I understand that. I In certain situations it might be more difficult, especially when you're actually really selling now. And you're interrupting someone's day. It's probably a lot more difficult doing that than just asking your boss to have an opportunity to take on a project. I know from firsthand because I actually started doing some cold calling just to practice. And first time I bombed, it was embarrassing how bad I did. But I got past that mental block of like, wow, this is hard. The people don't want to listen to me, and I started understanding how I can put tone into what I'm saying so they aren't acting like sharks in the water and they're actually willing to hear my idea. But you have to just get mentally through it because people are not, most of them are not going to want to hear what you have to say. So that's one. The next, we're going to talk about tonality. Tonality is a huge, huge thing that I would say is probably one of the biggest things um, biggest takeaways from the book is there's so many different types of tonality that Jordan talks about. Um, he has like I, I don't remember the exact amount of number, but there's like at least 10 different types of tonality that you use in different ways that you say it depending on where you are in the sale. So tonality is one. Picture like tonality is like an example. If someone, I don't know if you hang out with people and they ask you to go out, if or to go out to town and have a couple drinks. Ever have the friend that goes, "Hey, you're coming out tonight, right?" And so that's just like that's a different tonality and a different way. It's like an assumptive. It's like an assumptive tonality that makes it harder to say no to. It's like now you have to think. It's like, oh, he thinks I'm coming out tonight. I don't know. It's just like but Jordan takes that and puts it on steroids. He is very, sorry, my camera's shaking a little bit. He is very, um, uh, um, uh, let's say he has a handful of tips when it comes to tonality, and he has some funny names for them. So you'll learn a lot from that book, but I'll go through a couple of them that I think were important. You have to understand that human decision making is emotional. So don't get you know you make a pitch on anything. You have to obviously have the right data behind what you're saying, but don't think it's all data. Like, hey, you buy from us, we have a 20% increase in efficiency. And if all you do is harp on that data point, it's not going to push the sale through. Human decision making is very emotional. Um, so there are some tools that Jordan talks about how to push that through, especially when you're dealing with humans, which we all are. Teaches you how to close. So how to close a deal. You can close anything. It doesn't have to just be a sale. You don't have to be selling something, a product. You don't have to be a sales professional to close something. Um, and it teaches you how to push your agenda forward. So I don't want to keep repeating myself because I'm saying this. It doesn't matter what you do, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it doesn't. It teaches you how to have a full pipeline. It teaches you how to ask. It teaches you how to use tonality to influence. Teaches you how to understand that human decision making is emotional. So what are the techniques to get through that? And it teaches you how to close, push items forward, close your idea, get a meeting on someone's calendar, teach you how to be more confident. So all those things that helps, and I can see that happening and helping in any aspect of what you do. So that's some of the that is some of the sales parallels I want to talk about. For this book, I think I mentioned already, but this book was published in 2017. So now we're getting on to Wolf, The Way of the Wolf. Um, 4 years after the movie, The Wolf of Wall Street came out. It's funny how what the movie almost has it not. I mean, not 100% like the book, but there are when you read the book and if you've watched the movie, you understand that the director or whoever was making sure that this was as accurate as possible. They really got the sales side pretty well. Like the way they highlighted some of the sales, the way Jordan was selling in the movie, it was pretty accurate based on what he's saying in the book. For example, there's a line that Jordan likes to say a lot in his book. It's like, as he's closing, he says something about, this will be our benchmark for future success. You hear a lot. That's a big thing in the book, and it's a big thing in the movie. And another thing is the only thing that you'll be wishing is that you weren't buying more earlier or something like that. It's another big thing in the book, another big thing that they highlight in the movie. So the movie actually it's interesting. It does highlight the sales side of it pretty well. It doesn't cover all of it, obviously, because it's also going through his other crazy aspects of his life. So book came 4 years after the movie. Book came 4 years after the movie, and the how many I got four key takeaways that Jordan talks about. One is that selling is really a transfer of confidence from yourself to the buyer. And there are three ways that you can measure that. It's from 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest level of confidence, 10 being the highest level of confidence. But you're measuring that across 3 different aspects. One is your product, idea, or concept. So what are you selling through? You, and then your company. So each of those, Jordan says that you have three tens. So if someone is confident in you and someone is confident in your product or idea or concept, but let's say they're like, well, I'm not sure about your company, then maybe it's a 10, 10, and 5. And Jordan says you need like 10, 10, 10 or 9, 9, 9 in order to get a sale through. If it's 10, 10, 5, 5, 10, 8, you're not getting that deal through. So he specifically teaches in his book how to get each one of these 3 to a 10. So that is, I think, the theme across the whole book is how do you get, using all the techniques he'll talk about, how do you get all these 3? How do you get yourself to a 10? How do you get your company to a 10? How do you get your product to a 10? And some of the things like tonality that help, but he goes in a lot of detail on how to do this. So when you do read this book, I suggest if you're doing a Kindle, highlight a lot or get a pen and paper if you're reading a paperback, because he does talk very detailed into this stuff, and you need to take notes while you're reading it. Second thing is objections. Jordan says for objections, you don't want to waste time on people who just say no. And if you watched the movie, you don't want to get confused in this point, because I think it was I think maybe misunderstood. I think this is maybe just a misunderstood area in sales. You're not turning no's into yeses. People who say no and mean no and are not going to say yes, or you're not going to turn into a yes. And so the more time you waste on these people, the less time that you can do more prospecting and get more sales. So Jordan does not want you to waste time trying to somehow pressure a complete and total no into a yes. That won't won't bear fruit for you. You know, but when I say people who say no completely are different than people who have objections. So Jordan says people who say flat out no and mean no, don't waste time on them. But people who have objections, those are usually people who are going to say yes, because yes, objections are just smoke screens, is what Jordan talks about here. They are smoke screens for a lack of confidence in one of the three areas I just mentioned: you, your company, or your product, idea, concepts. And so it's when you hear objections is when you know, okay, this person isn't a flat out no. I can spend time on understanding what their objections are, because their objection right now is just a smokescreen. Maybe it's, I got to talk to my wife, got to talk to my business partner. I don't have time right now. Those, Jordan says, are smokescreens, and they're just because they don't trust you, your company, or they don't have confidence in you, your company, or your product or idea. And he teaches you how to get there. So that is objections. And by the way, I am briefly talking about these things. Obviously, objections is not that simple. If someone ever has done sales and they're listening to this, they're going to say, "Give me a goddamn break." Objections could have its own entire book, and I get that, but that's for Jordan to talk more about when you buy the book. So I don't want to get too detailed into this. Just want to give highlights of what Jordan talks about. Tonality. So I said tonality. I gave you an example of one, but tonality is so freaking important in how you ask questions, how you push someone closer and closer to closing. And Jordan has a lot of different tonality examples and tells you exactly where you would apply them. And he gets very detailed in them. I think he had like over 10 different types of tonality. And I think that you probably use, maybe these types of tonalities naturally without realizing it, but he teaches you how to harness them and like a freaking superpower. And and what that does is increase your confidence on one of the three tens. And so the examples I've given you already of asking questions confidently and assumptive, those are just a couple examples. He goes into a lot of them. I'll give you four examples. There's an absolute tonality. There's an absolute certainty tonality. There's a hypothetical money aside tonality. There's an implied obvious tonality. A reasonable man tonality. Those are just four, and he names them pretty funny. Reasonable man. And there's a Forrest Gump tonality too. So they're interesting, and like I said, you may naturally use these tonalities in different ways when you speak to someone, but he teaches you now how to use them on superpower. So that, and again, to me, that was one of the biggest takeaways that I had, was tonality in this book is something that I didn't think that much into, and then Jordan takes it to another level. Okay, next is closing. So again, salespeople, closing could have its entire an entire book. Okay, so I get that. And when we talk to a sales professional, we'll tease it out more. But for here, let's go through two things. One is it needs, when you're closing someone to actually take that last and final step to, saying yes or buying and giving your credit card. You need to have them put in very low energy, and the benefits need to outweigh the energy, outweigh the cost. So, meaning if you pitch someone an idea and they seem receptive to it and they're likely going to buy your product or service, or your idea. And then you say, great, all I need you to do is fill out, this paperwork of 20 pages and we'll get on our way. That is high energy. That's too much energy to close a deal. That's like, damn. Well, it depends, right? If it's a large deal with millions and millions of dollars, that's a different story. I'm thinking of like, let's say you're like a door-to-door salesperson, and so I guess it depends on the context. But either way, it does need low energy. You don't want to have someone to think that to get this deal through now, they have to put in hours and hours and hours of just paperwork or something. It needs to be do a couple things and you're on your way. So also the benefits have to outweigh the energy and outweigh the cost. So seasoned sales professionals know that when they talk about cost, so hey, how much does this cost? And let's say you get that question, how much does this cost? Seasoned sales professionals know that you can never just give cost out alone. You can't just say, oh, it's $500 and just not say anything after that. You have to say, you would have to say, well, it's only $500. And remember, what you're getting with that $500 is you're getting 24-hour customer support. You're getting top premium quality TV service. I don't know what the hell you're selling. And you have to give a handful of benefits, and that contextualizes the cost. If you just give the cost alone, it's like, oh, it's a lot of money. But if you give the cost and you say, look, it's this, and you get X, Y, and Z, it helps contextualize the cost with all the benefits. The benefits have to feel like they overwhelmingly outweigh the energy and the cost that this person has to put in. And last thing is what Jordan talks about is using a price anchor, meaning in your first, when you're closing, you're asking them for your business. Say, give me the opportunity to get your business here. When your first ask, because remember, when you ask, you're going to get hit with objections, maybe 2 to 3 times. And Jordan says after about 2 to 3 times, you're fine. But maybe after 4 objections, you can go on your merry way and know that this person is going to be just a waste of time. But if you always can expect maybe 1 to 3 objections. And so when you first ask for a close, you go to an objection, then you maybe get another one, then maybe get another one. Jordan says on your first one, you do them, this is, I think, pretty well known though, but on your first one, you give them a price anchor, meaning you start off with a higher either price or amount of orders. So it could be, I don't know. I have a book, so I'll use my book for an example. You can start off with 1,000 orders of the book, and because of that 1,000 orders, it's going to cost you like $8,000. Then you have an objection, blah blah blah. Maybe the second time you're saying, look, we can start you off with 500 orders, and then maybe there's another objection, blah blah blah. And then maybe you end up saying like, look, for the lowest I can go, first time buyer, we can do 100 books. And so you're using a price anchor of like, wow, I just spent $8,000, and then at my last closing, I'm only needing to spend $800, and so price anchor is a good way to make that $800 number seem low compared to the 8,000, and then they think they're getting a good deal. So that's another thing, and that's closing. So again, there's a lot of stuff Jordan talks about. I think the biggest things you're going to hear is tonality and how to move one of those three tens, one of the three tens to a 10. And it's an interesting book. Jordan makes it exciting. It's easy to read. I enjoyed reading it. I recommend this to anybody. I don't care if you're in sales or not. But if you just want to excel and you want to get your ideas pushed forward, you want to get your agenda pushed forward, which is what you will need if you want to be successful, then I recommend reading this book. Give it a shot. Give it an opportunity, because I think that you'll enjoy it, and I think that you'll understand that you can apply it in any aspect of what you're doing. So that's the Jordan Belfort Way of the Wolf book. We'll end off here. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Give me the opportunity to share this channel with your friends and family. My whole thing here is that I want to help people. This is a self-development podcast. I just want to help people by giving them tools, by giving them information, by giving them inspiration. And I can only do that if you help me share and give me the opportunity. Give me the chance to share this with your friends and family, to share this with your network. And so we'll have more books, we'll have more topics we're going to be discussing, and we're going to have more people coming on the podcast. So thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you, and have a good rest of your day.